During the pandemic, you wrote an article, and in that you said, I knew that I couldn't ask staff to help if I wasn't able to help out myself. So how difficult was that decision to step in? And what were some of those thoughts going through your mind?
Early in the pandemic, we were short-staffed because staff were isolating or testing positive or suspected positive. I remember going up to the unit. Usually we have 7 or 8 people working in the unit. There were only 2 people there. So I go, hey, what's going on? Is everyone out to lunch or something? They go, no, we're it. And I went, whoa, what? And it was mealtime. And during outbreak, everyone is in their rooms, not in a congregate dining setting. So I said, okay, roll up the sleeves, put on PPE. And at that time, PPE wasn't mandatory. That was kind of really early days. Started helping feed. This was on a non-COVID unit, and I started going up there all the time and got to know the people. And then when COVID hit, I moved over to the COVID unit and I stayed there for 102 days. To answer your question, we were so short-staffed, but we have other staff on our surgical side that are nurses, that are registered practical nurses, that are corporate staff that can be redeployed. I made one call, a general request for people to be deployed. Only 3 people responded. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go to that floor. I'm going to work it, and it's going to be okay. Get to the first day at the elevators, I throw up. I'm sick to my stomach. I am scared. I don't know what to expect. I don't even put on my PPE properly. I remember someone correcting me. And going there and going, this is COVID? Like, I couldn't tell the difference. And that's the thing. It's a silent killer until it's not. And then after a week, I sent out another notice. And I said, I'm working here. This is what it's like. We need help. I got 20 responses. So I think it really is about modeling positive leadership, positive behavior to say, hey, it's not my job to go up on the floor and feed. I didn't go to business school for this. In fact, it doesn't matter what my title is. I'm on the floor helping, and if you're qualified, you should be on the floor helping too. And I think what I loved the most was in full PPE, you can't see people's faces. So I was in the servery getting meals ready for the residents. The dietitian comes up to me and goes, you're doing this wrong. That's the dirty side. You should be on the clean side. We need to separate clean from dirty to reduce transmission. Who are you? Don't know you. You're new here. What's your name? I said, I'm John. And she goes, John, I don't know where you've trained, but you're doing this all wrong. You're really new, aren't you? I go, yeah, I am. And then she looks at me and goes, say your name again. I said, I'm John Yip. And she just turned bright red at the top. And she apologized. Oh, I didn't know I was talking to the CEO. I'm so sorry. I should have watched my tone, language. And I said, you did just fine. In fact, you gave me huge comfort that we're being safe. And you can tell the CEO that you're doing it wrong. And if you can tell the CEO you're doing it wrong, I tell other people you're doing it wrong. And as a result, this place is going to be safe. And she was so embarrassed. It became quite a story inside. John got told off. Even now, I step outside the office. Sometimes I forget to put my mask on because I'm just going to the washroom, which is around the corner. But as soon as I leave my office, I'm supposed to put my mask on, and I get called out. I love that. Mm-hmm. I go, yep, sorry, you're right. And I think that is when you model it, you live it. You inspire others to be like a peer-to-peer sort of leadership model. And as a leader, you accept the critique, hey, you're doing this wrong, you're not putting your mask on, and thank them for it. And it's like, oh, you're not giving me crap because you're the CEO? No, you're keeping this place safe. And you know what? Shame on me for not following the proper protocol and admitting that. So I think really that modeling piece extends just doing it. It's acknowledging when you've messed up too. Like, it's like, yeah, you're right. I should be wearing my mask here, not here. I should be wearing gloves, So a real positive experience around that. Funny at times, but positive.
And coming back to your time serving York residents, you said for 2 months you ate by yourself in the kitchen, you said hi to your kids from a distance, and you slept by yourself in the spare bedroom. And you said you were haunted by this entire experience. So how did you deal with the emotional toll?
I didn't realize the extent that the wave one had on my mental health and well-being. You're tough, you're the CEO, no emotion, you just battle through it. And I was on a call with my board chair and he said, John, you need to take a break. And I couldn't because our staff are working double shifts, triple shifts. Didn't want to set the wrong example. And he said, John, you need to take a break. And I think you're exhibiting some signs and symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. Irrationally, he was right, but I wasn't in the mindset. And I said, I'm good. I just need to sleep. Well, the fact of the matter is I hadn't slept well in months. To this day, I still don't sleep well. The article that you mentioned about Toronto Life was the first time my wife read about what I'd gone through. And she was just blown away. She said, I had no clue. And I said, well, I didn't want to bring it home. I don't want to share it. And plus, I'm in the basement, the troll living in the basement, just to be safe. One way to do it was a couple things. Because of the lockdown, the roads were free of cars. I started riding my bike to work. So there and back, 20K every day. I've racked up 2,000 plus kilometers. Just riding to work. The sense you wake up, you go, okay, I'm ready to tackle the day. You ride, it's downhill here, and your blood's going, and you sit at your desk, you're ready to go. At the end of the day, you've had a long day, it's usually dark, you're stressed, it's uphill. You gotta work a little harder. And so by the time I get home, you're sweating, the blood's going, I feel a sense of peace, I walk in the door, I'm good. And then I've also tackled some side projects. Again, there's a theme here around sports. I was inspired by this ultra runner named Ricky Gates. He's produced a movie, Run Every Street, beautiful, beautiful short YouTube video about his experience running every single street in San Francisco. And I said, hey, that's a really cool idea. So I started running every single street in Toronto.
Wow.
I'll just do my neighborhood. And, 2 months later, I finished running every single street in North Toronto. Okay, I'll start downtown. So I've run Harvard Village, Chinatown, Liberty Village. And as I started running through these streets, I use an app called Strava. It's a very popular app. It's like Facebook for athletes. So I have a watch that tracks my route. And it uploads to Strava, and I can see where I've run, where I haven't run, and my goal is to cover the entire city. But as I'm running through these neighborhoods, I take pictures, just with my cell phone, and I research the neighborhoods that I run in, or I already know the story. So I talked before about the Chinese head tax and the apology. Well, Jean Lum was a Chinese activist who also tried to prevent City Council for approving the construction is now City Hall on what was then Chinatown there. It would displace Chinatown to the west side, which is where the original Chinatown is now, the original, which is not the original. But Jean Lum played a critical role in that. And sure enough, in Chinatown, there's a laneway called Jean Lum Lane. And that's how I found out. I just went, gosh. So then I started researching different neighborhoods, particularly around the downtown neighborhood, which has a huge, rich immigrant story, whether it's Jewish, Italian, Portuguese, Chinese, Vietnamese, Southeast Asian. There's a rich, rich history of immigrants in downtown Toronto. So as I'm running down every single street, so every day it's a different route, I go explore the city. I do it before work, so I'm sometimes here at 6 o'clock, I run for 45 minutes, take a quick shower. I'm here at, at my desk 7:15, 7:30, whatever. Or I do it after work and in the morning I see the city wake up and it's quiet. But I've explored about 18% of the city now, different neighborhoods, different stories. And it's been a way to relieve that stress, very therapeutic, disengaging from the challenging environment that we're in with the pandemic and focusing on something pretty useless in one way, running every single street. Well, that sounds like fun. And researching it. Well, that's not what I want to do in my free time, but that's what I chose to do. And it doesn't take me a lot of time, but it's allowed me to distance myself a little bit. And then once I'm re-engaged, I'm reinvigorated, fresh mindset, and ready to tackle the challenges. So those are just two ways that I've managed. In fact, this month's issue of Canadian Triathlete magazine, I'm featured in a story there about how I've connected triathlon to the pandemic. So I've talked a little bit about it on this podcast verbally, but there's a short story in this month's issue of Triathlon Magazine Canada.
Oh, awesome. And you're still running? You're still running the streets in Toronto?
I am. Route plan tomorrow for Ossington to fill in some streets I haven't done. And then on Thursday, I have plans to run through Forest Hill, clean up some streets. Yeah, so I have my route plan for the route week. Got my podcasts, I listen to music or podcast audiobooks ready to go.
Coming back to that emotional toll that you were dealing with, and you said as a CEO, you have to be strong, there's no emotions there. And also you add on that layer of the Asian, how we don't show emotions. Growing up, we didn't see our parents ever hugging or expressing emotions, So how do you deal with all of those emotions that you're feeling?
Well, if you ask my wife, like I said earlier, it's like, I don't. But it's amazing. And I think one of the amazing things about the Toronto Life article that my wife pointed out is like the emotion of it, the rawness of it. And I think, to be honest, I don't think I've shared a lot of what I've shared with you and your listeners today with many people. Like I just don't talk about it. But one of the reasons for doing this is I recognize that talking about it, putting myself out there, being vulnerable, I'm not Superman. Listen, I am flawed, made poor decisions at times. I've had some, wellness issues and well-being issues during the pandemic, and I admit that. And I wouldn't do it normally, but I think showing vulnerability is actually showing leadership. And so your podcast or the session is a mechanism for me to reconcile some of those emotions in a rational way without being too non-emotional. So just putting myself out there, trying to sound articulate. And if I listen to this back later on, it'll go, geez, we're just like not talking sense here. But I think it's important to put yourself where your staff are and they're going through a range of emotions. And I think it puts them at ease to show them that their leaders are going through the same emotions. We're human after all. And we may deal with it differently, but I understand. So when I go up to see our screener, for example, even though she's PPE'd, I can look right into her eyes and I go, hey, are you okay? Like, is everything okay? Yeah, I'm just, really tired. And we had a COVID positive. And I said, yeah, do you want to talk about it? Like, oh, I'm good. Let me get you a coffee. Oh, okay. Coffee is great. Yeah, get a coffee. What's a coffee? And it just shows that you're kind of understanding where they're at emotionally by being vulnerable.
Yeah, it's the little things, as you said, everyone just wants to feel connected as a human being. And when you're working so closely to the front line, John, does it become hard to then come out and think strategically as a leader?
I think it turned out quite well. In fact, I think it's made me a better systems thinker to really understand what going through COVID is like for the front line. Front line in a long-term care home. So when policymakers, some may not have even stepped inside a long-term care home, ask for advice, I can tell them straight up without getting too stuck in the weeds. I can take what's in the weeds and frame it up so that policymakers, decision makers can understand what the challenges are from the front line. Because ultimately, it's not me, the policymaker, I'm not their audience. It really is around that interaction between the resident and the frontline staff. And I'm broker of information and knowledge. So I can translate up and I can translate to the front line to say, it's not a 20-page policy thing. It's more like, here's a TikTok video, no joke. Here's a TikTok video of how to put on PPE properly. So translating 20 pages of donning, doffing, technical, clinical language to a 10-second TikTok video. I mean, that's kind of that translation broker to really understand our frontline, our racialized women. They're not going to be able to fully comprehend 20 pages of government technical speak. Will they get a 20-second TikTok? Absolutely. That's not to diminish their intelligence or understanding. It's just a way of disseminating information, complex information, in a very simple way for absorption, so that they understand, they see it, they can hear the music as they're doing it, and it's proper donning and doffing.
Are you in the TikTok video?
I am in one. I mess up my dance steps.
We'll have to find that.
It's not online. I rest assured.
Oh no!